I was asked a question the other day, which was, how do we use our gifts as INFJs to help others? I think to kind of indirectly answer that question is to realize that one of the best ways we have to understand who we are is to compare ourselves to others. By looking at another person is how we can understand ourselves better. This is one of the reasons we are so people-oriented and are so interested in people, because not only do we learn things about people, but by learning things about people, it helps teach us things about ourselves. I was comparing myself to an INTP who also has FE and TI. I think if you compare yourself to someone else, you can discover things, in this case, the similarities, but also the contrasts. So we share FE and TI with the INTP. The INTP leads with TI, and their last function is FE, where ours are in the middle. Now, what I've noticed about INTPs is that they are very quick to give a conclusion about something when in conversation with the person. Their TI can be brilliant, and they will quietly run through a dozen steps in their minds or more when speaking to someone. This can even be something they have already determined beforehand that they believe about something. It can happen in real time, or it can be something they've already spent time thinking about. When the INTP is speaking with someone and a dilemma or a question comes up, the INTP is quick to state their conclusion, which, more often than not, I've observed, leaves the other person very confused, or thinking the INTP is judgmental or opinionated because they do not know how the INTP got to that conclusion. They missed all the steps in between because the INTP gave their conclusion and the person did not see the 10 steps the INTP mentally took to get to that place. And what ends up happening a lot of the times, the other person gets frustrated with the INTP because they don't understand how they came to that conclusion. And the INTP gets frustrated because they don't understand why the other person doesn't understand how they got to where they got. So the INTP has to then break things down more if they want to be heard in their ideas. This is something they can learn, and a developed INTP will recognize this as a useful skill in helping them deal with people better. I'm not saying the INTP needs to live in this place all the time, because I don't think it would be good for them either. In other words, where they have to continually explain their thought process to people. That's not one of their gifts. Such as in a situation where the INTP is teaching children or teaching people who are not as advanced as they are in a particular topic. I believe it would be a very difficult thing for them to do day in and day out, having to continually break things down in a step-by-step process. Whereas for me, I have a very childlike way of approaching things. I want to know why. I'm like a child, and I've said this before in some of my videos. I'm very much like a 2-year-old in some ways. I want to see how things are broken down. That's what makes me very good teaching children and teaching people who do not have the knowledge I do in particular areas, because I do enjoy breaking things down step by step. I like showing someone the conclusion, but also showing them how I got there. It's kind of like giving someone the end of the story, but the satisfaction is in showing them all the chapters that help unfold this story. And I enjoy doing that. And I can do it often and rarely lose patience in it. Whereas an INTP has difficulty doing this. They just want to give the conclusion and that's that. But the ones who are developed realize that if they want someone to listen to their thoughts, they have to do this somewhat. Try to meet the other person halfway and explain their thought process to them. So by comparing myself to the INTP, this is how I can help the INTP become a better people person, because I can use what I'm naturally gifted at to advise them what they have to do to get people to listen more to their ideas and thoughts. So I can tell the INTP that instead of giving their conclusion, what they think about it, maybe they should first listen to what the other person says and then ask questions. This is what it's all about. This is what the INFJ gift is. We ask questions. Automatically jumping to the conclusion and then sledgehammering the other person with it is not always the most effective strategy. Let's say, for instance, that someone comes to us with a problem they have in their lives. We might immediately have an idea what the solution is to this person's problem, but, as the INTP has discovered the hard way, we instinctively know that giving someone the answer to their problem is not necessarily what they want. Yes, they want their problem solved, but in more cases than not, most people want to believe they came to the answer or solution on their own. They don't want to think that someone else gave them their solution. Most people want to have autonomy in that way. We have to understand this about people. We are the same as well, are we not? We don't want people to give us answers. We find satisfaction in figuring it out for ourselves. This is one of the ways in which the INTP struggles, because they just want to give someone the answer and they expect the other to follow it, believe it, listen to it, or whatever, and it just doesn't work out that way for them. And this is why they get frustrated, and this is why they get upset with people and get impatient. But I think for us, we have a more intuitive understanding about people. So for us, we listen to what others have to say. And again, this is something which happens when we are young, but we don't understand it. We do it without thinking. It can be effective in our youth and immaturity, but as we go through our lives and try to understand exactly what it is we are doing, we can develop it as we grow into a very strong skill, and we can use it to help people powerfully because we understand it, what it is, what we're doing, and what we're trying to accomplish, and we can use that to be most effective. That's the goal, being most effective in your strengths. So for a more self-aware INFJ, you have learned from the past that people take your advice, but you're not seen in it. This has to do with invisibility, and I've spoken about this in my video about invisibility. This not being seen can be very frustrating, but as we grow older, we realize this really is our gift. Why would we want to be seen in it? Because if we're seen, if the other person sees us as giving them the answer, or as the source of the answer, then they are not as willing to follow through with the advice. They can't make it their own if they see us in it. If they don't see us as the person who helped them come to this conclusion, they are more apt to follow it for themselves and believe they came to it on their own. Our gift is not spitting out a conclusion. We listen to a person, listen to what they're really saying. You really need to develop your listening skills. It's crucial. Whether or not you're a good listener has nothing to do with type, so you should actively work to develop your listening skills. If you've had experience with people over time, you start to get an idea of what an individual needs, how you can help them, what they're trying to get out of you by seeking you out. But you don't just hand them the answer packaged up in a gift box. You might know there's a way they should go, but our gift is to get that person to get to that place and think they got to it themselves. And the way we do it is to start with the questioning. Listen to what the other person is saying, and then you just start asking questions based on what they've given you. This is a very intuitive process, a very intuitive thing, and you just learn to trust yourself that you will know the right questions to ask, because trust me, you will. You are taking in all sorts of clues that you don't even realize, clues from the other person's tone, expressions, posture, etc. All of that gets observed, and then you know how to lead from there. And in a way, you're kind of leading another to the solution. It doesn't matter if you know the solution or not. That's not necessarily important. Sometimes you have the answer and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it does present itself as obvious and other times it might not, but you want the other person to get to it. No matter if you know it or not, you want the other person to be able to figure it out for themselves. You're asking questions for clarity, not so much for your clarity, but for theirs. You are helping them get clarity on what they're saying to you. So you start a line of questioning, gentle questioning, and as they answer your questions, you are taking them down the path, holding their hand and guiding them to where they want to go, where they need to go. And then, through your series of questions, things will start to clear up for them. They will get clarity, and they will start seeing the answer to the problem. Then, they will believe they got to it on their own. And does it matter truly if they got to it with your help? No, it doesn't matter, because like I said before, people will take advice or will solve their own problems when they believe they've come to the answer on their own. They can own it then, rather than someone else spoon-feeding them or handing it to them on a silver platter. There is something rewarding about being able to work through problems on your own. Overall, that is the case for most people who are sincere in their desire to change or their desire to move forward. And again, don't waste time with people who aren't sincere in their desire to change. That's a fool's errand. I spoke about this in my video. about helping the strong or the weak, because if a person is not sincere in their desire to change, then there's no sense in working with that person until they have decided to be honest with themselves. So assuming you are working with someone who is honest and sincere in wanting to change, this process works very well with them. So it doesn't matter that they don't see you in it, because why do you want them to see you as the person that helped them? I realize all people desire to be seen for their good deeds. We desire praise. We are all human, and we all desire that from time to time. It's nice to be seen, and you should be seen by those who love you. But I think when working with people overall, if you can kind of train yourself out of that, not expecting the credit for it, that's a good thing. Really, the goal in all of this is to help someone with their life, to help them figure out their problems. The goal is not for you to be seen in it and get all this praise. There are people out there who are all about the praise. Look at me and all these wonderful things I've done. But people who have a sincere desire to help other people, that's not what they're about. You can't sincerely help other people if this is a strong thought in your mind, that you want the credit for it, that you want some glory for it. You're going to have difficulty truly helping people in that way, because some people will see through that. They'll spot your motive in it, and automatically you're discredited as a source of any kind of help, and they won't trust you. Going back to the INTP, a more developed INTP has come to see that bashing someone over the head does not work. They still want to be heard in their ideas, but they are more receptive to a better way of making that happen. This is similar for us. Being seen is just not going to happen. I want to help others, but I also want to know in my maturity what's the best way of making that happen. So for us, we help people by leading them through a series of questions, guiding them in that way, helping them find clarity in their thought process, understanding who they are. All these things happen in real time. So it's important we study people so we know how to help people. The intuitive questioning process gets more honed over time if you have had exposure to many types of people. And this is where the INTP struggles, because they want credit for their brilliance, in a similar way as we do. It's why I see INFJs who are hurt when not being seen by others. We want credit for what we do as well. But to do it in the most effective way, we need to get past that mentality and see the beauty in not being seen. This is the most effective way of helping people. In a similar way, the INTP needs to learn they cannot get credit for their brilliant idea until their ideas are actually understood, until they are broken down enough for another person to understand. This starts by understanding that others are not as quick as they are in that way. And we can encourage them that if they want others to be more receptive to their ideas, then perhaps they should attempt to break down their thought process out loud a bit more, try a bit more of a questioning process, which will make another more receptive to their ideas. We can help them to get their ideas heard and considered more, and maybe get them to question if it's really credit they want or the deeper satisfaction that comes from seeing someone embrace one of their ideas. Which makes us question, as INFJs, is it really credit we want, or the deeper satisfaction that comes from seeing someone make a change in their lives? Helping an INTP loved one has helped me to see even more who I am. By explaining to them how they can have better interactions with people is how I can see how my own process works. It's a good exercise comparing myself to other types and seeing the weaknesses and strengths of others so I can see what my strengths and weaknesses are in comparison. Try it with a loved one in your life. Think about how you've helped them. By helping them and comparing yourself to them, by reflecting on your own process in this way, you will be able to understand yourself better as well.